Welcome back. In this video, we'll learn about hierarchical clustering. So what is hierarchical clustering? Hierarchical clustering is an unsupervised learning technique which is used to group similar data points into clusters by building a hierarchy, which is, for example, a tree-like structure. In hierarchical clustering, it does not require specifying the number of clusters in advance, whereas in k-medoids or k-mins, we'll specify the number of clusters in advance itself. This algorithm builds the clusters in a step-by-step, that is, either by progressively, that is merging smaller clusters, or by splitting a large cluster into smaller clusters. This process can be often visualized using dendrogram. This helps to understand the data similarity. Types of hierarchical clustering. There are two types of hierarchical clustering. The first one is agglomerative clustering and the second one is divisive clustering. First, we will look into hierarchical agglomerative clustering. This agglomerative clustering is also known as a bottom-up approach. Otherwise, it is called as hierarchical agglomerative clustering, HAC. The bottom-up algorithms treats each data as a singleton cluster at the onset and then successively agglomerate pairs of clusters until all the clusters have been merged into a single cluster which contains all the data from the data set. We look into the hierarchical agglomerative clustering. The first step is start with individual points. It means that treat each data point as its own cluster. For example, if there are 5 data points, you begin with 5 separate clusters, each containing one data point. The second one is compute distances between the clusters. That is, we calculate the distance between every pair of clusters. Initially, since each cluster has only one point, this is simple, the distance between two data points only. The third step is merge the closest cluster. Here, identify the pairs of clusters with the smallest distance and combine them into a single cluster. The fourth step is update the distance metric. Here, what we will do is, after merging, the total number of clusters decreases by 1. Then, we need to recalculate the distances between the newly formed cluster and all remaining clusters. The next step is repeat merging and updating process. Here, what we will do is continue the merging process with the nearest cluster and update the distance metrics until all data points are grouped into a single cluster. The final one is to construct a dendrogram. Here, the merging process can be visualized using a tree-like structure called dendrogram. This shows the hierarchy and sequence in which the clusters are formed. Here, we'll see an example. Before seeing an example, actually, to perform this, we can start with the raw data. As such, we have seen examples in k-medoids or k-means algorithm. Otherwise, we can start with the distance matrix. In this example, we are starting with a distance matrix. Here, the distance between 6 objects are given. That is, the objects are A, B, C, D, E and F. So, here it mentions what is the distance between, for example, the 79 mentions what is the distance between A and F. The distance between A and B is 16. The distance between E and F is 10. So, this is a distance metric. With this, we are going to learn how to perform agglomerative clustering. So, we start with the closest data point. So, for example, here in this data point, you analyze what is the least value. Here 10 is the least value. It means that E and F are the closest data point. So what we are selecting, E and F are the closest data point. Then what we will do, we will merge it together as a single cluster. Okay, after merging this as a single cluster, then again we need to find from this, now E and F are, you have merged as a single cluster. Okay, now you need to find which data is having the second least value, or which points are having the second least distance. Here 16 is the second least number. So that is between A and B. It means that the distance between A and B are 16. So here the distance between A and B are selected. And in the next step, what we will do, we will merge together to form a single cluster. As of now, we have E and F as a single cluster, and then A and B as another cluster. Now we need to find the next least value. The next least value is 23. 23 is nearby which cluster? It's nearby E and F. 23 is the distance between D and F. 23 is the distance between D and F. So obviously it comes nearer to this cluster E and F. Okay, so now what you can do, you can merge these two clusters. So now we are merging these two clusters. So now this we have. Okay, now which is having the least value here? The distance between C and E is least value. E is already in this cluster and C we have it here. Now we just check it out. What is the distance? It is 30. So you can merge these two clusters together. After merging these two clusters, another one more cluster is already there, which is A and B. Now when we check, we have only two clusters. These two clusters can be combined together, and we are combining as a single cluster. What we have done, we have started with multiple clusters, each data point as single cluster, and then we are by merging the neighboring cluster or neighboring data points together, we formed into a big cluster. So this is said to be HAC, hierarchy agglomerative clustering. What is dendrogram? This can be viewed in the form of dendrogram. So what we have done earlier, we have combined E and F together, and then we have combined A and B as a single cluster. Then what we have done, we have combined it with D, and then we have combined it with C, then we combined it with A and B. So that is shown in the form of dendrogram. So E and F are merged together as a single cluster. Similarly, A and B are merged together as a single cluster. Then to this E and F, we'll be merging D. Then to this cluster, we will be merging C. Then we will be merging these two big clusters. So this forms a dendrogram. The next one is hierarchical divisive clustering. Hierarchical divisive clustering is nothing but a top-down approach. Whatever we have seen previously is a bottom-up approach. Now this is a top-down approach. So here it recursively divides the cluster into smaller ones to become a single unit or single data point. We start with a large cluster which contains all the data points, and then we split up to form a single to form multiple clusters, and each cluster will have a single data point. So here in this example, we are starting with the values A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Based on the algorithm, it splits up into two clusters, F, G, H and A, B, C, D, E. And then F, G, H is splitted up into H as well as F, G. And then further F, G is splitted into two clusters, G and F. Similarly, here A, B, C, D, E is splitted into B, C, D, E and A. B, C, D, E is splitted into D, E as well as B, C. D, E is splitted into E and D. B, C is splitted into C as well as B. So we have started, this is a top-down approach. It means that we have started with the whole data set as a single cluster, and then we have ended up with each data point into each data point as a cluster. So we will get multiple clusters at the end. So this is said to be hierarchical divisive clustering. Thank you.